Welcome to the Good Pod. I am one of your hosts, Jason Reed. With me, as always, the one, the only, Marissa Garza. Marissa, you good?
I'm good, Jason. Another episode of Elsbeth here on our docket for the week. So, you know, it's good.
Marissa, before we just get to dive too deep, do you have like $5,000 I can borrow just for no reason? Just I need $5,000.
Oh, for no reason.
For no reason at all. Just need it for a quick appointment. Just an hour appointment.
For pod research?
Yes.
Is this a write-off that we can do for a free podcast?
Exactly. This will help me dive even further into the episode. No other reason than that. Why I need a $5,000 loan against the business to pay for a consultation appointment. Just, you know what? I don't even know if I'll need the full hour. Maybe she'll do a half. Maybe she'll do a half off. Special. I don't know.
Oh, because we're talking about her business right now.
Yes.
Like we're basically doing an ad for this business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chloe is a consultant. Maybe she can let us know how we can do better in the Good Pod. Whatever we get up to in our consultation appointment is between me and Chloe, obviously.
I mean, why can't I go visit Chloe?
Oh, I mean, you can visit Chloe on your own if you want. But I feel like we may need separate appointments. You know what I mean? I don't want to get you involved in my appointment. We need separate appointments.
I wish that we had $5,000 for this type of investigation. But I can give you 5,000 Monopoly dollars that I can do.
Maybe Chloe will take it. I mean, it seems like, Chloe, do you do any pro bono cases? I mean, pro bono consultations? I don't know. Chloe, get in touch.
For the good of the pod, Chloe.
It's for the good of the pod. That's all it is. We're doing this for podcast research to make the podcast better. Don't you want that, Marissa? The one consultation point will probably make the podcast
here's the thing,
better.
Jason.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say anything, but, you could up your culture game. You could up your...
Yeah, I definitely... Look, Chloe can give me some really good fashion advice. Get me out of these Marvel t-shirts that I wear every freaking day. Listen, just okay, all right. Like, just don't tell my wife. Like, don't tell my wife.
I was gonna say. I mean, I know she doesn't listen to this, but
she doesn't. I mean, just no one snitch. Okay, no one snitch. Don't be a Rivers. Okay, and snitch on me. To my wife
in any capacity. Do not be a Rivers.
No capacity, and none at all. Yeah, Marissa. Like I said, we're in Elsbeth season 2, episode 13. Titled is Tearjerker. We are trudging along here in season 2. I really, really like this episode. I thought this was a really, really good episode.
Tell us why.
Like Elsbeth does sometimes, it strayed a little bit from format. There were some twists and turns in the motive and in the in the reasoning for this to all happen. We kind of got the murder, but we didn't get all the facts behind the murder, right? And I love when the murderer does something and we're not sure why they did it at first. Like when Chloe came in and threw the first stake down the trash, I was like, why is she doing that? So I'm really happy when they leave something to be answered later, because sometimes it's so cut and dry the reason the murderer did this, and all the ways they did it is so obvious and so easy that we spend the rest of the hour just waiting for Elsbeth to catch up to us. It's fun to see Elsbeth catch up to us, but we're just kind of like, all right, we know all this information already. But it was fun to get clued in on information later down the line in the investigation. So I really love those Elsbeth episodes, and I'm happy when we get one every now and again.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to have a little bit of a mystery happening there. And I mean, Elsbeth did try to allude there was another mystery going on with Kaya and her assignments. So there were some things going on as well.
But and listen, this episode brought us someone new to hate as well. You gotta love that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
A new villain on the block. So we love that as well.
I mean, what is a good pod without me hating a man? I mean,
there you go. Exactly. We need people to root against. Okay.
What is that? But yes, we are closing in on the end. There wasn't a lot of action on some of those supplemental storylines that we've been talking about, but I do think the case itself holds up on its own. And it also was an interesting motive,
Yes.
Like there was some nuance there as well. So altogether, great episode.
Yeah.
Also very on topic, talking about billionaires. So again,
there you go.
The Kings keeping it real.
Billionaires doing shoddy real estate work. Remind you of anyone? I
Do
don't
you know
know.
anybody that does that?
I'll have to think. Anyway, before we dive too deep into things, we want to remind you of some free and easy ways you can support this here podcast. We love it when you interact with us, when you tell us how we're doing in a usually in a kind of constructive manner. Let's put that out there. So some ways you can do that is by following this podcast wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that follow button. If you are to subscribe to us to let you know when we have a new pod coming out. If you're just listening to us on a podcatcher like an Apple or Spotify, you can leave a 5-star rating. On Apple, you can actually leave us a written review telling us what you like about the show. And we actually have one of those reviews that I want to read right now. This one is from L Train 1234. It is titled So Good. I see what you did there,
Love
L-Train.
it.
I see what you did there. It
Love
says,
it.
listen to it every Saturday afternoon after watching Elsbeth. Well, L-Train, this one's to you. Thank you so much for the 5-star review. We love hearing from our listeners, from our watchers. If you actually just want to even chop it up with us about the show, in email form, you can do that as well by emailing us at thegoodpodfeedback@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. And usually if it's something, that we can talk about on the pod, we will talk about in the email we get on the pod and interact with it. If it's something that, we will respond to personally on the email, we'll do that also. So we love hearing from you guys about what you're liking about our show, about Elsbeth, about the good pod, about the good wife, no matter what. So any of those things we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for those that have already done those things. We really, really, really appreciate you.
Yes, it helps us get, that sweet, non-existent ad revenue that will fund Jason's consulting extravaganzas.
Exactly. Yeah, I got a little thermometer, on my wall of like it's $5,000 for a consulting appointment. It's very, very low. Such as you mentioned, we have no ad revenue here, so you got to do something to get that ad revenue up.
But like reviews, they do help us get to a point where that might be a possibility. So very, very helpful.
Yeah,
all of your support in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Now that housekeeping's out of the way, we've already talked a little bit about the case in the episode, but let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's do the recap. Let's go to the case of the week.
All right. Do you got your Kleenex? It's a tearjerker.
It's a tearjerker. I got my. I'm not even gonna say it. I was going to say something real crazy, but I'll leave that. I'll leave that for the after dark version of this podcast.
Well, this episode starts off at a very fancy restaurant with only 2 people in it, basically. Yeah. And it's an old guy and a date. We don't know anyone's name yet because that's how the Kings like to play it. But later we do find out that this is Nathan and Chloe. Nathan is the billionaire being brought back to life by Chloe, his date. He's eating everything that he loves. He wants more martinis. We do see Chloe drug a martini. So at first, there you go. That's how a murder is happening off the bat. We don't necessarily know why. We don't have any motive behind it, but we definitely see how it's happening. Yeah, they mentioned that there are go ahead.
I said Chloe, who is being played by Jordana Brewster. If you're like me and are a huge, huge fan of the Fast and Furious, I guess at this point we'll call it the saga, the epic that is the Fast and Furious movies. There are almost 10 of them at this point. You'll know Jordana Brewster as Mia in that property. So, it took us a while to learn Chloe's name, but I kept writing Mia as for every Chloe reference I had. I said Mia this and Mia that, because that is who she is to me. That's, one of my favorite film franchises that are just like so much action and nonsense. So I was overjoyed to see Jordana Brewster in this episode, and she was used to such great effect. Just her, like the way just kind of the like seductory like kind of vibe she gives was perfect for this character.
Yeah, they really like got her essence throughout this entire thing. Chloe is mentioning, that there's problems in the building, so we don't really know what that's about yet. She does order 2 tomahawk steaks for the dog before leaving after Nathan says no to dessert, which, I mean, given what we end up finding out about Nathan, like, are you sure you don't want dessert? Like,
give me all the desserts.
Are you sure?
But I mean, he apparently, as we learn later, ate a whole lot of food before that, because that boy was stuffed, obviously. So he's just like, I ain't got no room for no more. I ate all the good stuff I could, so let's go retire. And listen, this was after Chloe drugged his drink, so maybe he was already starting to feel the effects. True.
Yes. And so with suspicion, we see Chloe and Nathan leave because we, again, don't know what's going on. And then Chloe takes one of those tomahawk steaks and throws it down the trash chute.
I was like, no.
Excuse me?
That's a perfectly good steak. I would have eaten that. You could have passed it through the TV. I'd have taken it.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on here? Nathan's getting a little woozy. So, like, things are going to happen quite quickly. They get upstairs. She dresses him in his pajamas. And basically, there's an ominous line here where he goes, "What would I do without you?" And she goes, "You'd survive." And it was like,
Oh,
oh, da da da.
but Nathan throughout this whole time is speaking really wistfully. He's really reflecting on his life a lot. So I don't know about you, but I kind of surmised the twist ending at
Oh,
this
did
point.
you?
I did. I've got that. I've got that mind, that just it spots all of the dialogue to tell me like, oh, this might be happening. I'm wondering if this is the thing, and this thing I was wondering was the thing. For the
Oh
we
my
won't spoil it
gosh.
yet, but I'll just say to humble brag that might not be so humble. I kind of got the twist at this point. I
Wow.
clocked it. I clocked
Wow,
it.
Jason.
I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm just saying. I'm just
Wow.
saying.
So I was so proud of you. Like, way to go. I definitely thought that something was up. I still didn't know what the murder or like what the motive was,
Yeah.
but they were a little too nicey for
Yeah, I
my
mean,
for my
listen, Chloe, if this is indeed the last time I'm going to see you, there's some other, you don't have to leave. There's some other stuff that, I don't know. Maybe that's why she poisoned him before they went to the room, right? Like, some of the stuff he could be doing
Well,
before
you
you
don't
go.
know like what happened the nights leading up to this
Could
as
be. Maybe
well.
he might have gotten
Like
his last wish before. I don't know.
we do see Chloe after she tells Nathan that he will survive. He would survive. She pulls out some gloves, takes these pills, put them out on the counter, and then opens the door. Okay, she opens the door and she has the steak in her hand, and I was like, "Are you gonna throw the steak off the balcony? Like, what is
From
happening
that
with
high
this
up,
steak?
a
What is
tomahawk
going
steak would murder someone if it
on?"
landed. I'm like,
Bam!
oh my god, can you imagine how did Daryl die? A tomahawk steak impaled him from above.
Yes.
We're just not sure how it ended up coming from above, but a tomahawk steak killed poor Daryl, just impaled him from above somewhere. I don't know, because I mean, we're told that this place, what is it, Manhattan Towers, is
Mm-hmm.
extremely
Quite high.
high up. So almost anything thrown up for that height would do some damage landing on someone.
Yeah, like we overhear in the police station, like, man, a man got killed with a tomahawk steak.
Mm-hmm.
But she takes the steak and throws it down the trash chute again.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Then we see this woman who lives next door, basically, wakes up and is like, oh man, he left the doors open again. I'm going to go, talk to him and tell him he has to close the doors. And when she does, she finds out that Nathan is dead.
Dun,
Da da
dun,
da. This woman
dun.
being we find out later, Deborah, his wife. So a little bit of a living arrangement happening between these two.
Mm-hmm.
Because this woman is definitely in bed with a man before she gets up to go check
Yes,
on
for
Nathan.
sure. I was like, oh, it's the downstairs neighbor. Was my first thought. Like, this is the neighbor downstairs.
Yeah.
And she hears it because she's right downstairs. I was like, oh. Then we later find out, oh, it's Deborah. Okay, interesting.
It's Deborah. Back at the station, Detective Kershaw, the detective who opened the Mertens case. Mertens.
Well, she's like, I think
Mertens.
she's like a chief in another precinct.
Yes, but the case was like her last name is Kershaw, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then the case that was opened is
It was-
the baseball bat Mertens case.
Right.
Thing.
The case that that perpetrated that he wanted to be open and shut real quick. And I mean, it makes sense because apparently this guy that she's put on that because she wants Rivers to come learn from Wagner because Rivers was the detective that was at the Mertens scene. So that makes sense that it was really bungled in that way
Yes.
earlier in the
Yeah.
season.
And this dude is the worst.
He is terrible.
Okay. Like, I'm just getting it out there. Like, I am never going to like this guy unless he has a big redemption arc in the next like 3 episodes because he comes in here and he is at the crime scene and he basically tells Elsbeth and Kaya, this is my crime scene. And they're like, whoa, like, what is going on? And Elsbeth also introduces herself, Jason, as someone who is here on a consent decree. So we
Yeah.
are back in consent decree territory. I don't know.
I thought we
what's
were
going
done.
on
I
here.
thought we were done with the consent decree stuff, but it makes a lot more sense given how this episode goes and what Elsbeth has to do with Rivers. So I mean, I guess it makes sense in that way because this is going to be the first time in the history of Elsbeth that Elsbeth actually has to use her consent decree powers to take Rivers off the case because he is just the worst. So I guess it makes sense in that way, but we're still in that like limbo of like, I'm a consent decree lawyer, but basically I'm a consultant. Like, we still have that language, but I understand in this episode because that actually does come into play, the consent decree stuff.
Yeah, like they had to remind us that this is still like a power that she has.
Yeah.
So they observe that Nathan's pajamas all have snaps, but the ones that he died in had buttons. So this is leading Elsbeth and Kaya to think that someone else was around.
It just got me thinking about that Pussycat Doll song. I'm gonna loosen up my buttons, babe. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt with the musical interlude.
No, I love musical interlude. Did you have like an accompanying like choreographed number though?
I mean, I do, but I'm gonna save that for the Good Pod stage show that we're gonna do at some point.
Okay. Yeah, the live coming to you live section.
Exactly.
Deborah tells Elsbeth and Kaya that Nathan had arthritis, so all of his pajamas had snaps, and so they're like, "Oh man, but this dude has buttons on." So like something is up here. And Deborah also explains that she was in bed with her boyfriend, Dr. Yamamoto, and at the time of the murder, and Nathan was declared medically incompetent. So these are all things that we learn in this conversation.
These are all things that Nathan. These are all the clues that we need. Like,
yes, they're just like, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, here are the things you need to know to solve this case.
And Deb continues to, theorize that Nathan took more pills than he should have. And so they go into the kitchen to look at the things of pills. And all of a sudden, Rivers is like, it's pentobarbital. This is a drug. We're going to arrest you, Deb.
Like, yeah, just Deb, you're under arrest. Like, you're under arrest. And I was just like, whoa, hold on. Hey, why would you be doing that?
And like literally, this has been 2 seconds of Rivers' life, and then he's like, "I'm gonna call the chief. I can't work like this. Like, I can't do this. This is too much." Elsbeth does see that the cap on the pentobarbital, which is a drug that makes like people sleepy, is different than the caps on the other stuff. It's in that not child safe lock.
Yeah, the easy to open one, I guess. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing, that they were two different ways to put on the cap. Yeah. I'm not a big pill person. I'm not a pill popper, I guess, like Marissa, because Marissa knows about it all.
Oh, goodness, Jason.
What? I don't know. What? I didn't know there were two different ways to put the cap on. I know there was a childproof cap, but I didn't know it was like you flip it over and it's easy to open.
Flip it over.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I use my prescribed medications from my doctor.
Right. Yeah. Wink, wink.
Boy.
I got you. I got you, Marissa. We all listen. Those that listen to the Good Wife side of this podcast know Marissa's thoughts on drugs and all that stuff. So
that one time, just that.
You
one
got
time.
it. You got it, Marissa. Your prescribed pills. Understand. Everyone, Marissa's only using prescribed pills. Everyone, that's all Marissa does. Wink.
Jason, do you want to go on this consulting appointment or not?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Keep on task. So the question that Elsbeth and Kaya have at this moment, though, is like, why would Deborah use Dr. Yamamoto as an alibi if they were in it together? Like, something is not right here, because Rivers' whole thing was like, oh, your boyfriend's a doctor, so obviously he could get these pills, so obviously you killed your ex-husband, because obviously that's what women do, basically.
Yeah, we've seen people and detectives jump to like the easiest conclusions before, but Rivers is on a different level. Rivers
Speaking
is like,
of Fast and Furious, like,
right, exactly.
This is like 0 to 60 in like less than 2 seconds.
Yeah, you can see why the Mertens case was mishandled by the way that this guy jumps to conclusions in this way. So it makes a ton of sense. But yeah, this is just the first of many instances where Rivers is going to be aggressive and overeager and incompetent.
Yes. Then we are introduced to basically the Venmo of the Elsbeth world. What did they call it? The cashier app or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Cash count or something. It was something weird. It was something alliterative.
It was something weird. And Kaya had something to say about the transaction she received from Cameron about rent. She was like, my or his rent transactions don't have any other cute emojis. They just have the house emoji.
Uh,
And Elspeth is like, do you want there to be other
yeah,
emojis
like
here?
what more like
What are you?
so this is like a little bit of a dig into like what is going on with you and Cameron. And Kaya's not denying that she wants a connection. She's like, no, unfortunately, there's no lovey-dovey emojis. It's like, so you want lovey-dovey emojis? Okay, listen, we've seen the writing on the wall since Cameron showed
He
up
showed up.
at that crime scene.
Yeah.
We know it's only a matter of time. So let's get to it, Kings. Come on, we don't want to don't waste our time here.
So Elsbeth and Kaya are examining all of the transactions that Nathan has in this Venmo world, basically, and we can see there are a lot of eggplant emojis. There are a lot of suggestive other emojis, but they're all going to someone named C. We don't know anything else, but just named C. And they also find a transaction with the up arrow and the city, meaning above the sky, which is the name of the restaurant that they were at the beginning of the episode. So Elspeth and Kaya head over to above the sky. We learn that there's lots of problems with the building because of how high it is. Like, you can't use the balconies. You can't. I don't know, like, Jason, I have lived in a, like, not a super high rise.
Lived in a high rise
building.
apartment. Have you, Marissa? Okay,
Not super high. Not
I see
super
you
high.
flexing. I see you
But
flexing, Marissa.
I've had friends that have lived in much higher ones.
When I've lived in a penthouse apartment.
Oh boy. I used to podcast in my bathroom. Okay. So like it's not worth it sometimes.
In my luxury bathroom.
It was not luxury. But anywho, it is very windy up there. Like sometimes you cannot use the balconies, which it makes it really, kind of useless to have a balcony and all of this stuff. So there's issues with the balcony. Apparently the trash chute makes a ton of noise, which is something that is complained about a lot. And we learn the waiter is telling Elsbeth and Kaya that Nathan ate and drank like he never ate and drank before.
Yeah, he was listing everything the guy had. He's like steak, lobster, foie gras. Like he was listing just a whole bunch of stuff. And it was interesting because when we saw Nathan and Chloe having dinner, she was like dipping his lobster in butter. He was like, more butter. He's like, way more butter. So like it started like things are connecting. And we also, when they talk about the trash chute, it was like, oh, okay, Chloe threw the steak in a trash chute. So starting to connect a little bit of dots there.
Yes. And he also says, hey, she took home 2 tomahawk steaks for the dog. And Elsbeth's like, I didn't see any dog. I didn't see any like bowl or anything that would like suggest that there's a dog there. And also there was no steak in the fridge. So something is a little weird here.
That had me thinking, like, is Elsbeth like looking in the refrigerators of everyone? Is this like Cribs? She's like,
for sure.
She's like, see
sure.
what it got in the fridge. Like she's a very, she looks at everything in there.
You can tell a lot about a person by their fridge. So it makes sense.
What's the weirdest thing now, Marissa?
The weirdest thing in my fridge?
The thing if we open your fridge, you'd be like, oh.
The weirdest thing? I don't have a lot of weird. I have a lot of cheese.
You have a lot of cheese.
A lot of cheese.
Why do you have a lot of cheese?
I'm a big cheese person. Protein. It's high in protein.
Okay. I wouldn't say I have a lot of cheese. Weirdest thing. Let's see. Is there a weirdest thing in my fridge right now? I have a lot of. I've really got an addiction to sparkling water that is sold at Walmart. Ooh. White grape is my current obsession.
It's a good one.
So good. I buy like probably 6 or 8 at a time, and they are gone within a couple days. So that's probably
like the liters, like the
not a liter, but it's probably like. It's like 32 ounces, maybe. I'm not sure. It's not. It's big. It's a big boy, and I drink a lot of them. It's a problem. It's a problem for my bladder in the middle of the night. If I can be honest with you, so that's probably you probably look at my fridge like, why does he have so many of those sparkling waters in his refrigerator? That's probably the weirdest thing about my fridge right now. And so many of the HelloFresh they send because my wife does HelloFresh and never makes the HelloFresh stuff. Like never.
Oh no.
And it's like, why are you wasting money on this and filling the fridge up with these like paper bags of material you'll never use?
It is a bunch of paper bags.
Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there wasn't anything really that interesting in the fridge, especially no steaks. But the waiter also does tell Elsbeth and Kaya that, like, hey, I've seen this lady on the arm of many a men, many a billionaires on Billionaires Row. And so this kind of gives them a clue, and they start to do some more investigation here into Chloe. Apparently, she has a consulting agency called C Suite, and we hear from a lot of her customers that she's very well loved and adored, and also don't tell anyone outside of, of this conversation about her. So she's definitely, does a lot of high quality work. And Elsbeth walks into the office. We are greeted by a woman named Desire. Desire's very interesting. She's just like, ooh, women supporting women. Love to see it. Like, this is so great. And Elspeth's like, what? What's going on? And when Elspeth meets Chloe, like, there are some vibes
There,
happening there.
there's some sparks. It was just like, I was supposed to be like, Angus, who? Like, hey, Chloe, like, I don't usually like.
Or, or, hey, Angus, I met this Chloe person.
Hey, Angus, you got an extra $5,000 lying around? I got an appointment I can make the both of us. I mean, if that's what you're into, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. Listen, it's an interesting query of like, hey, Elsbeth, like, which way does your freak flag fly? We don't know. We're not
Yeah.
sure. Elsbeth could be having
Yeah.
a actual attraction to Chloe, and not just the fact that Chloe is just so stunning. Even people that are like normally heterosexual might even be like, oh, whoa, like, hey, you are even catching my eye. And that's not usually my thing, but you are that beautiful, and that like that charm just exudes, of vibes are there. Even though I don't go that way, you're still catching my attention. So I don't know if that's the thing. I doubt we'll get too much into the sexuality of
Yeah,
Elsbeth
probably
at any
not. Like,
point.
this is it.
But I think it was just so interesting that Chloe is this like charming and disarming that even Elsbeth is falling under her spell. Elsbeth, who she falls under no
Yeah.
one's spell, seemed to be actually falling under this murderer spell.
Well, and it was also going a little bit the other way too. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I never get to work with women. This is so great. Like, I'm so excited." So Chloe also had a thing for Elspeth, and she's not even a firewoman. We do learn that Chloe's going rate is $5,000 an hour, and she helps men with things like culture and style and the culinary arts. Never once is sex mentioned.
Never.
It is more like, I will go to these events with people. I will, make sure that they are seen well in society, that type of thing. And Elsbeth notices that there's a painting in the crate, and Chloe says, my clients give me a lot of gifts. They're very, very generous. And these are people who are like just changing the world, and nobody asks them at the end of the day how their day was except for me. And at this point I was like, Chloe, Chloe. I get it. You have a business. You have to do your thing. But also, like, I'm not gonna cry any tears for billionaires. That's really
Yeah.
where I'm at at this point in my life.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Like,
I definitely get that.
don't try to give me any billionaire sympathy in this moment.
Not in this moment in the world, no.
No, no. And Elspeth is like, brings up the fact that, like, hey, we know that you were at, above the sky that night, and you had this dinner and everything. And Chloe's reaction is very like defensive, and not over defensive, but she's just like, oh yeah, I was there. Did you check this security footage? Like, did you see that part?
Yeah, it's like, we didn't ask you about the security footage, so why would
No.
you voluntarily offer that information? Seems a little specific of information you're giving us that may tell us that, I don't know, you did something to security footage. Like, that's like, that would really tip me off if I'm like wondering, like, okay, like you volunteered that information very fast.
Yes. And if there's one thing we've learned by watching this show or any lawyer crime show, is you only answer the question you are being asked. Do not
Yes.
answer more than that. But Elsbeth and Chloe are interrupted by Michael, and Michael's just like so happy to see Chloe and has so much to tell her, and Elsbeth has to go.
Michael, who's like, is she going to join us for the toy show? And I was just like, I love toys. She's like, oh wait, like maybe not toys you're
But
talking
not like
about.
that. But not like that. Not
Like
like that.
slinks out of the office.
Elsbeth returns to the station and talks to Kaya, and she learns from Kaya that, everything was left to Deborah in the will. So Chloe really has like no monetary motive in the situation. And the people who are involved in the suit against the towers also really have no connection to Chloe. So they don't really know where to go. But don't worry, Jason. Don't worry. Rivers is here to save the day. He's gone ahead and arrested Dr. Yamamoto. So case closed.
Yeah,
Solved.
I got him,
Done.
guys.
Because this man had the pills in his office, even though he is a doctor, and apparently he has a nickname called Dr. Sandman. And in the most bro way possible, Rivers says, Dr. Sandman. Boom.
Boom, bro. Boom.
I'm over the boom. I'm over the boom. Elsbeth and Kaya go back to the building to learn more about the security footage. They learn that the security footage is controlled by AI. And then they also waste stakes in testing this theory by seeing how loud the trash chute is and how the cameras react to the noise of the trash chute.
You could have been like, all right, what's the weight of a tomahawk steak? And let's put a weight in here to simulate the experiment. No, we had to get actual steaks. We had to wait. Four whole steaks were wasted in this episode. That's tragic. Four cows. Cows.
No, well, yeah, probably more, but yes,
or
less.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, more or less.
I don't know how it works.
I don't know how butchering works. I'm not a butcher. I don't know. But 4 steaks were wasted. This 4 steaks that anyone, including me, could have eaten. Okay.
Well, and Kaya was like, "What are we doing?" And Elsbeth had to be like, "It's for the good. It's for the good of the case."
We had to have someone say it, or else people would be like, "How dare this show waste good food?" And no one mentioned it. Kaya at least has to have the conscience of the people. Like, we're wasting good food, Elsbeth. Why do we do that?
Yeah,
it's for the good of the case, Kaya. It's for the good of the case. I guess. I'm like, you could have given me that. Could have weighed it, put a weight down, and threw it down there that way. I'll just say it.
Even though Rivers has arrested Dr. Yamamoto, the next time we see him is he's questioning Deborah. I was very confused by this. I was like, okay, Deborah's here. But Wagner is watching in the interrogation room and he says, why does he have to act like a caveman? Great question. Great question, Wagner. Also, I am also very glad to see that Wagner was also on team I hate Rivers.
Yeah,
that was a good moment.
I would definitely have to do some side eye to Wagner if he was trying to stick up for Rivers
right?
Anyway.
Right.
I don't think anybody can excuse his behavior.
We haven't even gotten to the worst of it, and it cannot be excused. Elizabeth comes in, talks to Wagner, and she says, you know that saying that men are afraid that women will laugh at them, but women are afraid that men will kill them?
Oof.
She's got to be, Deborah's got to be really scared. And that is a real thing. There was a whole conversation over the summer on TikTok about would you rather be in the woods with a bear or a man? And a lot of women, myself included, chose the bear.
I was just about to cite that, Marissa. I was just about to talk about that. It's so interesting that you came with but I mean, I got thoughts about that, but this is not the place to bring that up. But yeah, that is true. Sometimes these men can be over aggressive without even thinking about the fact that they are, or even if they do, they just don't care.
Well, and you can see on Deborah's face, she is not comfortable.
She
can't show that she's scared, but she's not comfortable. So Elsbeth goes in, Rivers comes out. He's gonna go complain to Wagner, oh my god, can you believe it? Blah, blah, blah. And Wagner's just sit down and listen and learn. Come on, get on this. To which we get our first overt product placement of Elsbeth when she offers Deborah an Izzle in either strawberry or mango. Have you ever had an Izzle?
Both great flavors, both taste great. And not even a lot of calories. Isn't that right, Detective Wagner? That's right, Elsbeth. Izzle is a great substitute for soda that really is healthy and will not cause you diabetes like I have. I just was like, wow, this is just so shameless. There's it
was literally holding the can up, yes. Both cans with the logo up. It was everything. Yeah.
Sure, it was so funny. There's on my other podcast, A Perfect Match, we talk about Married at First Sight. There's recently just an awful product placement for ADT that was just so over the top and obvious that like ADT has nothing to do with Married at First Sight or a love experiment. It's like, why is this in here? They had the nerve to not only put it in one episode, but the next episode too. It's just like so wild. And this was almost as bad. Like, would you like an Izzle? Like it was so funny and just really out of nowhere, out of place. Is what is Izzle? I'm wondering. Is it
It's like a flavored water, but like with like fruit juice. Like there is sugar, but not as much as the pop type of thing.
Oh, I was wondering if you were going to call it pop or soda. There's that Midwest.
It's a pop.
Let me get a pop.
Jason, let me just tell you that when you open a can, it goes pop.
Mine goes soda. Mine says soda.
No, it does not.
Mine goes
not.
Soda. When you hit the tab, like, soda. Like, I don't know what you're talking. I don't. Maybe there's just like different like geographical issues here that cause mine.
There
to go,
is
soda. And yours go.
But
pop,
the thing is, if I'm getting it from a fountain, I would call it a soda. But if I'm in a can, it's a pop.
Really? Because you're.
I mean, like soda water. Like I'll see soda water sometimes, but it's definitely Coke is a pop, or it's just Coke, but it's never Pepsi.
Oh wow, that's hurtful. I'm a Pepsi person myself.
Yeah, well, we're all different people, Jason.
I thought you were gonna say we can all be wrong sometimes.
Allowed to like what you like. I'm not gonna take it away from you, but let me know if you try an Izzle between now and the next one. Maybe we can do our own taste test.
I probably won't, but we'll see. Izzle did not get me with this product placement. That made me go, oh, you know what? I want me an Izzle.
Well, Nathan, I was trying to tie this to Izzle, but I can't do it. We just learned that Nathan didn't want to be seen out in public. Basically, stayed in the house.
Nathan wouldn't want to be caught dead out in public without an Izzle. That's the only way he'd come out of his apartment, is if he had an Izzle in his hands.
I also don't know why Izzle doesn't try to get Snoop Dogg to be a person, like with the Izzle.
I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. It really does.
Yeah, I know.
And the man will do
Izzle. It. Like, right? Exactly. Like, he'll do it.
I saw Snoop Dogg advertise a fire pits. He'll do a soda, I'm sure.
He's out to get the money. Put him on a horse, have him drink an Izzle, he'll be fine. Yeah. Then we've got this conversation between Elsbeth and Deborah gives us some more information. We learned that Nathan didn't go out in public. He basically stayed in the house. There was a lawsuit against him because of everything that was going wrong with the building. And also, Dr. Yamamoto helped Deborah declare Nathan medically incompetent. So, and the reason why they did that is because Nathan was spending so much money on art and rare books. And apparently he has a saison. I don't know how to say it in French. Saison. That is worth millions of dollars. And Elsbeth was like, oh, so interesting. I wonder where that could be. I am not remembering that one crate that Chloe said had an art piece in it. No, so interesting. So Elsbeth goes back to Chloe's office, and Desire again is like, I really didn't think you were like this type of consultant. Like, whoa.
Desire is like, ooh, I really like your look. Like, you're really gonna stand out with the other consultants.
Yes. We see a bunch of men leaving Chloe's office. Elsbeth thinks they're all clients, but they're just there to like make Chloe ready for her client of the day. Chloe does end up telling Elsbeth that she has, the saison, and Elsbeth says, that's kind of weird. Like, people might think you killed Nathan to get this painting because it's like worth millions of dollars. And we also learned that the painting arrived after Nathan's death. So this was bought after he was declared medically incompetent. So there's something weird, something fishy here. And I also give the writers and the show credit here because, Chloe's character could be seen as an escort of multiple like ways and things. But they're giving this character, an education here, saying that she has a master's degree in art history. She's very well-rounded. She has a lot of stuff here. So I liked this conversation where you could really tell that Chloe like knew her art stuff, because Elsbeth says, what would Nathan have to do to get this painting? And there's like all of these steps that would have to happen, including hiding it from Deborah.
Yeah, which shows that he's not as incompetent maybe as Deborah would have us believe. And also, right, like to your point, I like that, they're giving the character of Chloe a lot more depth, because they could have easily written her to be just this like know nothing shallow person that's only using her body for her work. But she's a very
Well,
smart
and
person.
we don't even know if she is using her body. Like the only
Right,
thing
yeah.
we know is emojis based. That's
Yeah.
it. Like
It's
yes,
never
we can assume things, but it's never been explicitly said.
Yes, exactly. She never once in this whole episode explicitly says that she has sex with these people. It's never she never states that outright. People like Rivers will outright say that that's what he thinks is going on, but she comes back at him with like really great logic and really great like comebacks with that. So yeah, she is a great character who was written really well and was written with like I said, a lot of depth to her. So I really do appreciate that about this character.
Same.
And it also says something about like the reality of sex workers, right? Because I
Yeah,
mean,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, like sex work is work. And
Mhm.
also, you are more than your job.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like people are allowed to have well-rounded like experiences and knowledge and education, and also be forced to live in capitalism and make money in the way that they are comfortable making money. Like
Totally.
it's the system. That's a whole other podcast. Anywho, back to hating on Rivers. Rivers is questioning Dr. Yamamoto now. So now that after he's been arrested and we've questioned Deborah, Dr. Yamamoto is being questioned by Rivers. Rivers is like thinking, like doing every like play out of every bad detective movie that we've ever seen. It's like, okay, Dr. Sandman. Like, what do you think, Dr. Sandman?
He's
like all of
watched
this stuff. And I was like, stop talking.
he's watched too much of Elliot Stabler in SVU. Like
Yes.
he's really watched too many of these cop shows, and he thinks that that's all the job is. It's just being mad and aggressive at your suspects to get them to talk.
He does get some information out though. Dr. Yamamoto does say, I slept with that woman being Chloe. And Rivers takes a very dramatic look, I told you so, or look at how good I'm doing to Wagner, who's watching behind the double-sided mirror, which was very annoying. But then they bring Deborah in, and we learn that Deborah knew about Chloe, but Elsbeth is in the room, and she makes sure that we know, that she knows, that everybody knows, that it didn't make sense for Deborah to kill Nathan based on the timing of the lawsuit, because Nathan was going to testify in the lawsuit the day after he died. So of course Rivers is like, this is a cut and dry case. Like, look at this. I got this. Like Dr. Yamamoto had the pills. Deborah was mad at Chloe. All this stuff. Bada bing, bada boom. Case closed. I was like, not so fast. And this is like, if I were teaching a class on mansplaining, on what it's like to be a woman in the workplace, this entire scene would be exhibit A, because Elsbeth is trying to talk and Rivers keeps interrupting her. And he also keeps like stealing her ideas and saying that they were his ideas in this whole thing. And I was kind of like, I know that Wagner is like on team Elsbeth, but he kind of just like was like, okay, whatever, like let's get to the end of it.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to close the case.
I really hope, because I mean, the way they kind of set this up is that Rivers may be sticking around. I kind of hope he doesn't. I understand introducing a character that you want the audience to not love, but I really kind of hate Rivers, and it's gonna be kind of hard for me to see the path to redemption, especially as we'll get to how Rivers treats Chloe later in the episode. I think it's gonna be really, really hard for us to try and like this guy.
Well, how he treats everyone. So here he's also saying, Elsbeth is like, Nathan was a huge professional loss for Chloe. Like this isn't a murder, like a vengeful murder type of situation. There's definitely more to the story. And River's like, well, the DNA will prove it. And she's like, yeah, of course the DNA will prove something because she's in his apartment all the time. Obviously. But what we have to prove is that she was there the day he was murdered. And he's like, that's what I said. I'm already like strike 800 against Rivers in this situation. So they bring Chloe in for questioning. Again, in my I hate Rivers category goes this conversation. They ask Chloe, like, hey, did you sleep with Dr. Yamamoto? Which again could have been phrased a little bit differently. But she's like, no, I went in as a patient. Maybe Dr. Yamamoto had like some sort of fantasy of what happened, but that didn't happen. And Rivers really leans in here and basically shames this woman for things he does not know that she does with her own body. And her response is, what I do with my body is my business. And she is right.
Yeah, I mean, he literally like calls her a prostitute, which I was a little surprised that the writers of Elsbeth went this far with the Rivers
Yeah.
character, because this was, but at least the actions of Elsbeth and Wagner meet the moment, right? Because
Yes.
Wagner and Elsbeth are like incensed. They're just like, Wagner comes in, throws
Well,
Rivers out. Like, it's like, wow, this is like way over the line that you've done. So I was surprised that the writers let him get that far, but I was happy that the response was appropriate.
well, this is like he goes even further by first of all getting a DNA test. Don't you have to like comply to that? Don't you have to like sign something? He's just like going in and taking like DNA without any like
Yeah.
probable cause or anything like that. And then he says to her, "How much do you usually charge to put things in your mouth?" And I
Oof,
was like, "Excuse me?"
damn.
Excuse me. And this is where Elsbeth is like, by the power of my my consent decree, like we have to stop this. And Wagner comes in, and then they let Chloe go. And I again do love the character of Chloe here. When Rivers is coming, around the corner, he's basically incensed that they're letting her. Like, aren't you just gonna like you could get her for a prostitution charge? That's like a misdemeanor or whatever. And she says, "I'm not a prostitute unless that's what you want me to be. I'll pay the $1,000 fine to make you feel like a man." And I was like, yeah,
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 snap, snaps,
Chloe.
get him, girl.
Yeah, that's how that's supposed to go. So then we hear the entire like or Wagner cannot stand Rivers in any way, shape, or form. He's just like, I hate that guy. And during this, Kaya comes in, and the book has been returned. The rare book that was mentioned earlier in the episode. It's like an original copy of Yeats. There's water damage on a specific poem, and we get another glimpse into the romantic heart of Wagner because he wants to read this poem aloud. And he does a very good reading of the poem, but this reading cracks the case for Elsbeth. This is it.
Well, listen, Wagner read the poem, and I am not a poetry person whatsoever at all, which should tell you that by the time he finished reading this, I was like, huh? What he say? What that mean? Huh? What's going on?
It was about feelings, Jason. Feelings.
Oh, see, that's the problem. I don't have those.
Yeah.
So
Feelings.
that's where I'm mixed up.
Feelings.
I got you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
Doesn't speak to my black heart, my dead cold black heart.
No, I know you have feelings, but at the same time, this is like the second time we've seen Wagner be like, sensitive, which I enjoy.
I was like, works on Claudia all the time.
All the time. Yeah. Whatever she's up to, which we'll find out hopefully in the coming episodes. So Elsbeth goes back to Chloe and is like, look, this is what happened. She breaks it down. She's like, Nathan knew this was his last meal. This was a request of Nathan's, an unusual request of Nathan's to you. And you did this to frame Deborah and Dr. Yamamoto so that they would have no more control over his cash in any way, shape, or form. The things that really did it for me were the buttons on the pajamas and the pill bottle cap and like how much you cared. And also because we may have illegally taken your DNA. I'm not 100% sure on it. I just wasn't really that, comfortable with the way that happened. We used your DNA and tested the tears on the book and they matched. So therefore, you were there the day that he died.
Yeah.
And we learned that Nathan was Chloe's first client and she would have done anything for him and she loved him. So, I did also enjoy the conversation between these two women. Like, Chloe's not mad at Elsbeth.
Yeah.
She's just like, you did your job. Like, under any other circumstances, we would have been friends. Elsbeth was like, I know people who could help you. Like, I know a lot of good defense lawyers. And she's like, don't worry about it. I got a bunch of rich people who will help, get me out of jail. It's not a big deal. And she's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And Chloe does ask Elsbeth to return the Cezanne to a museum so that everybody else can benefit from it, which shows just again how much she cares about art.
Yeah.
What did you think about this reveal, Jason?
I thought it was a pretty low key like reveal. It was Elsbeth had pretty much figured everything out. I said he knew was he when she revealed that Nathan asked her to do this for her. I was like, yep, got it, called it early in the episode. That was me. I did it. I'm a genius. But yeah, I mean, Chloe's just like, yeah, I did it. Like, go ahead, take me in. At first, she's like, so you're here by yourself, like. You gonna let me skate on this one? Like we good? We Gucci? Did my charm work on you? And I was just like, nah. I got Kaya. She's over there. She's gonna arrest you. I thought it was interesting that we didn't really see Chloe get arrested. It was just like, yeah, because I mean, most of our terrible murderers, we see the cuffs get slapped on them. This is more of a really, really kind of delicate, like, hey, we know what you did, and we're gonna take you in now. Like, no need for the handcuffs, officer. She'll come in willingly. It almost felt like that because usually our murderers, we gotta like rustle their hands behind their back, and like, all right, you're coming with us, buddy. This one was a very kind of like a very lower key arrest.
Yeah, I mean, there was kindness in a way in the motive, so there was a kindness in a way of the arrest, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, back at the station. Rivers is pissed. Rivers is like, you should have let me make the arrest. This is my case. And Elsbeth's like, yeah, that we solved, you dork. Like,
you dork.
We learn from Detective Kershaw that Rivers is Kevin Landon's nephew, and Kevin Landon is the chief of detectives throughout all of NYPD. And Wagner is not happy to hear this.
Wagner was like, the Kevin Landon? I was like, okay, who's this guy supposed to be?
I also love when he said to Kershaw, you sent me a Nepo detective?
That was hilarious. Not a Nepo detective.
Wagner's like, okay, fine. Like, if he's going to be here, he calls Rivers in and is like, look, I don't care if you're the Pope's nephew. You are going to get mandatory counseling. There's going to be a reprimand on your record, and you're going to have to prove to me that you get a second chance. So
put on a top.
His eyes are on Rivers for now.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Kaya's walking down the hall. She gets a little notification, little text message from Cameron, and he says, "I'll tell you at home." House emoji. Then a heart, a whole big heart. Like, it's on its own line, Jason. Like, the emoji on its own line, I think, has a lot more power than attached to a message.
Yeah, it's a big heart. It makes the heart bigger.
It's a big heart.
Oh, do we think that Elsbeth had anything to do with this? Like, hey Cam, maybe you should send her a heart emoji. Because I mean,
I don't know.
We had that. Elsbeth and Kaya had that talk of like, Cameron doesn't send me any lovey-dovey emojis, and maybe Elsbeth's like, hey Cameron, maybe you should do this. Now listen, this is me taking your shtick of writing the episode.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we'll reveal later. I don't know.
But would you want Elsbeth to do that, like to meddle in Kaya's thing? I would want it to be so pure. Like, I would want Cameron to be like, I need her to know, so I'm gonna send a heart emoji because this is how we tell our emotions in 2025.
I guess, but I wouldn't mind Elsbeth playing Cupid a little bit, like, because Kaya and Cameron are both like in their corners, like looking at each other, like it's all like a middle school dance. They're on two sides, like, yeah. I don't want to ask him. I wonder if he's gonna ask me, and he's doing the same thing. It's just like, y'all just standing here. Y'all both like each other, obviously. So I wouldn't be mad at Elsbeth and be like, hey Cameron, like maybe if you want to show your intention, maybe just send her a heart emoji, see what happens.
It'll be well received.
Listen, we've had things put into motion and shoes drop later, so I wouldn't be surprised if like Cameron, reveals that Elsbeth gave him the advice to send a heart emoji later, and I don't know if Kaya would be upset about that or what. So that it could be another shoe that drops. Kind of like we went almost over a season with Teddy not knowing that Wagner put in for that job for him, and then we found out last episode.
That's true.
I'm just saying, you never know.
It could happen. It's plausible.
It is
plausible. Yeah, so we've got heart emoji action there, and when she rounds the corner in the hallway, she sees that Rivers is sitting in her desk, and I was like, excuse me? The audacity. And Kaya has such a kind heart that she's like, Rivers, like, just like dial it back a bit and you'll be better on this. And his response is, I don't need advice from someone I outrank. And I was like, excuse me. And her response was, you don't outrank me. I'm getting promoted.
Tell him, Kaya. Tell him. That's right.
Yeah. Well, boom, boom. And who eavesdrops and also sees this interaction, none other than Detective Kershaw. And Detective Kershaw says, "We're always looking for women like you at the 27. Let's stay connected." And I was like, no, Kaya, no.
Why? Show, why are you doing this to us, Show? We know Kaya's not going anywhere. We know Kaya's going to stay with Elsbeth. Why are you even dangling this carrot out in front of us like this? We just, I guess, just at some point, maybe make Kaya think, like, should I go away from Elsbeth? Is Elsbeth going to take all my shine? I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a choice for Kaya. And then she sees Elsbeth getting the credit for the stuff that Kaya does. And she's like, maybe I should go to a different precinct to separate myself from Elsbeth to show that I can do the same good detective work. I wouldn't be surprised they offer that to us, but obviously Kaya is not going to be away from Elsbeth.
I could see this at the end of the season where Elsbeth, we've already discussed, is off to Scotland for the summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Kaya could go to the 27 to prove to herself, even though Elsbeth's like out of, that she can do this on her own, away from Wagner, away from Elsbeth, like as a whole, and maybe just like covers for someone in the 27th for a couple weeks and then comes back. But I do think there will be a time where she has to learn to trust herself in that way. She has been very confident in this episode itself. She was just like, I don't understand why Rivers is on this case and I'm not. Like,
yeah, why not the detective here?
And if she doesn't get that promotion fast enough, that could be another thing that kind of like pushes her over to the 27. So we shall see, but not a lot of movement on the Milton Crawford front, other than just being introduced to Rivers and how horrible of a detective he is, and us making our own assumptions on how that case went, because we never saw like the police work that went into that case. We just saw the court case kind of unfold.
I wonder if that's how they're going to work on this redemption arc for Rivers, because like we know that he's the one that worked the case. I'm sure Elsbeth is going to have some questions for him about how he found the crime scene, of how he did his detective work, if any. Maybe he'll learn some stuff that way by maybe going back over the case. Maybe that's part of what will get him to understand that he's maybe a crappy detective and he has to do some work on himself.
Okay, here's another thought, and then I'll be done.
No
what
more
if
thoughts.
Milton Crawford? Yeah. What if Milton Crawford paid Rivers because of the whole Nepo thing, because of the whole like, or like paid his dad, and his dad told Rivers, and Rivers is being used by his dad to try and do like some sort of thing. But I think there's like a connection, and I think that the fact that Wagner was all like, Landon, you know, like Kevin Landon, he has got to be like involved in this somehow. And so I'm just trying to draw the line between Crawford and Rivers at this point, and the midpoint I think is his dad. Uncle.
I can definitely see Crawford stepping in and being like, hey, I need someone to like take this case that's like not your best,
not great
detective. He's like, I got that perfect guy. My nephew's an idiot. I'm the one that got him the detective shield when he didn't deserve it. So I'll send him over and he will bungle this thing, and he'll look the other way if we need him to, or he won't look close enough at stuff. So I'm going to send him. So I could definitely see that being the case. I also hope that this is not a introduction to like Kaya and Rivers being a detective team. Right?
Oh yeah, no.
Because the way that they interacted
deserves
here,
better.
Yeah, the way they interacted here kind of gave me like, these two are worst enemies now, but maybe by next season they'll be best of friends as a detective duo. I really kind of hope that doesn't happen. I really don't need any more of Rivers. No, thank you.
I veto that. Hey universe, if you're listening, I veto Jason's theory.
Just throw it out the window.
So yeah, that was Elsbeth season 2, episode 13, Tearjerker.
Yes. Yeah. Great episode. Really enjoyed it. I think one of the better Elsbeth season 2 episodes, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
Marissa, you want to tell all the good folks out there in Good Podland where they can listen to you, watch you, read you, whatever you want them to do with your
my
content.
Goodness. So many things. Not really. But I'm here on the Good Pod most times, most days, at least on Saturdays and Mondays for sure. And then if you go over to itsmemarissag.com, you can join my email list. I just did a workshop about how to start a podcast. So if you're
Nice.
interested in that, head on over there. I'm trying to help as many people get their messages out there in 2025 as humanly possible because one, it may be the last time that we could do so. And two, we need to make sure that, a lot of different voices are heard. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in that type of stuff, it's me, MarissaG.com is the place to be. Jason, I know you're talking about a bunch of stuff. What do you got going on this week?
Yeah, so you can find me on the Rob Has Podcast Network on the Love at First Sight feed, talking about both Love Is Blind and Married at First Sight. Both of those shows have Asia Welch on them. For Love Is Blind, we're also Mary Kwiatkowski is our other co-host for Love Is Blind. So come over there and have some fun talking about the mess that all these people are getting into, trying to find love or trying to find whatever it is they came on these shows to find. Some people may be trying to find fame. We don't know. That's what we're questioning. That's what we're wondering. So we're having a lot of fun over there. And of course, you can find me here talking to Elsbeth and also on Mondays talking Good Wife. Come join us on the Good Wife side of the podcast. We have a lot of fun over there as well. And anything else you want to know or want to find me on, I'll be talking about it on Blue Sky over at JR33D. Also talked on the on the We Know Scripted TV side of Rob Has Podcast, I talked with Sasha Joseph about the upcoming Daredevil show and kind of the state of Marvel television and
Ooh.
movies at the moment. And it was kind of a preview of the Daredevil coverage we'll be doing over there on the We Know Scripted TV side of Rob Has Podcast. So we'll be doing that every week as well coming up. So yeah, I've got plenty of things in the hopper at the moment. If you want to hear me talk about any of those other things, that's where you can find them. And until next week, stay good.